In the year 1997, the future is in chaos and turmoil. Mankind is on the brink of extinction. Brave survivors band together and build a time displacement apparatus to receive a signal from a parallel future. This transmission is the Wundercast.
There's one team that kicks ass. They're assembled. They're the Wundercast. Never back down from the brass. Always start first. Never finish last. Had a mock speed. Bit too fast. Oh no, they're out of gas. It's okay there. Just a podcast. They're the greatest. We're the Wundercast.
Welcome to the Wundercast, the official podcast of Wunderblog.com, the home of Wunder Halloween-a-thon, all October long, all official spooky season long. Pumpkin spice season is Wunder Halloween-a-thon season. So we say, as we've said for, I guess, 3 years now. Today is day one of Wunder Halloween-a-thon, so we're releasing this special podcast to get everyone hyped up. I am your host, Steven. With me today is the always wonderful leader of the demonic dungeon of Wunder Halloween-a-thon, the they of theys, D-Rock. How you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, I guess I do kind of spearhead a lot of this just by the fact that I work on it, like, all year round. I'm, obsessed with it.
Mm-hmm. Also with us is the queen of all things spooky, the lord and mistress of the night herself.
Yes.
Dani. How you doing, Dani?
I'm great. Yeah.
So, we've never actually done, an official podcast or anything in these years where we, just explicitly speak the rules of Wunder Halloween-a-thon.
Yeah.
So, do you want to explain, D-Rock, or...?
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things that, it can be applied in a lot of different ways, when you're doing your themes and you're picking movies, but for me, because I'm probably the most avid participant as well as one of the planners, because what I always do, and this is kind of what it came out of, was years ago I decided, let me try to, watch as many horror movies in October as I can, just in the spirit of Halloween. I'm really big on stuff like that, watching Christmas movies on Christmas, and I take it as far as I watch The Black Coat's Daughter on February 22nd because there's a scene in that movie where she crosses the 21st off of the calendar, so it takes place on the 22nd.
Whoa. Or
Texas Chainsaw Massacre Day that actually many other people were celebrating in August, which is the fictional day that it takes place. So I like doing shit like that. And so it turned into I think the first time we found other 31-day challenges.
It was during
COVID.
It was during COVID to spice things up. The world is on pause.
Mm-hmm.
So we needed the idea of a theme a day horror thing was a nice guiding point during COVID.
Mm-hmm. And we usually pick different ones. We just found some JPEGs on the internet of
So that's the first time we did 5 podcasts in October. That was the first unofficial Wunder Halloween-a-thon.
Right.
Where we were just responding and reviewing lots and lots of horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
And then next year we evolved it to make our own theme a day horror calendar list, which was really fun, and we've kept the tradition going.
Yeah, it's so
And-
much fun. I love just like, especially now with the themes, just like I like make schedules for myself. I'm like, I'm gonna watch, like, I never get around to everything I've had, but like I'll put like 5 or 6 movies on each day that I want to watch, and like, attempt to be productive is somewhere in the middle of all that. But like I just binge myself, and like sometimes I burn myself out by the end of the month, but I just love just watching as many movies on the themes.
Yeah.
And I like finding creative ways to make things fit into certain themes sometimes and stuff like that. So
I recently learned that there have been studies done that show that if you suffer from anxiety and depression, watching horror movies helps to literally like to regulate your mood because it gives you adrenaline and it helps to alleviate the symptoms. Also, there's
Interesting.
other factors like it's a controlled anxiety because you choose to watch a horror movie. So for me, watching lots of horror movies and maybe Halloween is like especially for lots of people, it's a fun thing to do because it's a month where you sort of feel a little bit less stressed because you're constantly scaring yourself or you're thinking about scary things, and so you're like the adrenaline's rushing through your body.
Yeah.
They also say that that's a possibility that the spike of adrenaline and then watching horror movies can boost your immune system.
Oh,
So
really?
as we go into this
Interesting.
terrible COVID
Watch
surge,
horror movies for your health. Yeah.
as we are in this terrible COVID surge, I'd say it's a good thing to watch a little movie to be a little scared. So
Yeah, my
cover
white blood
yourself.
cells learned from Jason.
I'm just telling you.
No, that's-
I literally looked up research today because I had a friend on TikTok who like posted a video, and I was like, "Is that why I'm so into?" She's like, "That's why," because she was talking about how she watches like 3 gory movies in a row to feel better.
Nice.
She's like, "I'm mentally
no,
ill."
that's really interesting though, like, because like I actually used to not like horror movies, and probably for that reason, like my anxiety was like I don't want to like willingly scare myself, but like over time, like even like I always used to hate jump scares, like I hated being startled. That's like someone with anxiety doesn't like being startled. That's a big part
That's
of it.
that's the one
And
part of horror movies I don't
eventually-
like is jump scares, I guess.
And
Like,
eventually I like acclimated to it, and like if you watch enough horror movies, you will almost never be scared by a jump scare because they're always sort of telegraphed in some way or another.
unless the movie's clever enough to
Unless it's
to not do that.
Like
But
when I watched Host, that movie made me scream because they don't telegraph those at all, and
very
they're
effective
so
use
effective.
of jump scares, yeah.
They're so effective. I screamed like 3 times in that movie.
So we're gonna go into our freaky favorites of the day. Our freaky favorites is like literally the most. I would call it like this is like if this is like a bingo card. This is the free space at the center of the bingo card.
Just
that
put
is
anything here.
The Bunda Halloween-a-thon. There are no wrong answers. It just has to be a movie that is a favorite of yours personally, a movie that you like. So we're gonna go through some of our favorite films and think about what other days they would fit into on Bunda Halloween-a-thon. I'll start with a comfort film that eases the crap out of my anxiety. The Monster Squad, directed by Fred Decker. I could obviously put it in creature comforts because there's rip-offs of the Universal movie monsters.
There's so many days.
In it, I could put it on Scare the Kids.
Scare the Kids,
because
for
there's kids who get scared in the movie, and it's kind of a kids film. It's right on that sweet in between 80s line of like a tween movie.
Yeah, totally.
Is there a cemetery in that movie?
I feel like
There's not a cemetery.
but like people get
there's
resurrected.
there's a
don't they?
coffin.
Okay.
But there's in a water, but there's not a full cemetery, so I
Okay.
can't use it for Graveyard Shift Day. It would be there's a Dracula, so I could use it for bloodsuckers if I was so crazy. What else? I don't know. It's just a really fun movie. The ending always sticks with me, and I feel like it has like one of the strongest endings of any kids horror movie.
Mm.
So that's one of my picks.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, D-Rock? One of yours for freaky favorites?
Yeah. So, and this is one of those themes I really like because like, not only is it wide open, but like freaky favorites can mean a lot of things. Like, one year I put The Ring because it was the first horror movie I ever saw in a theater. So like movies that have like meaning to you also is like something that I really like for today. But another interpretation of that for me is movies that I've watched a million times. And so I have one of those. I have a couple of those on my freaky favorites. One of them is Class of Nukem High, which is just a movie that I discovered this year and love, and we've talked about it already, so I don't need to.
And we got a whole commentary
and
track.
you could do that on like on the If You Dare. You could do that on probably on like the Creature Comforts Day.
If You Dare is a new category we invented this year.
Expanding on Halloween.
To sort of mash up psychedelic and Halloween categories.
So like all kinds of drugs, drug-fueled horror, which is going to be a lot of fun. But that's not even one of my like all-time favorites in terms of like I have like a list of my top 50, and what is on that list is another movie I've seen. I've literally watched this movie 12 times this year. It's called The Conspiracy, directed by Christopher McBride. It's a Canadian movie, and it's like a mockumentary about conspiracy theories that devolves into something else, and I won't go into too many details, but I just like the aspect of the fake conspiracy theory documentary is so pitch perfectly done. Like, I've seen some of those documentaries, and it's like such a perfect satire. It would go great in Found Footage Day. Trying to think if there's any other days that would work, but it's like really it's a mockumentary, so like Found Footage is probably the one that it fits best into. But it's such a fun movie, and I love the ending. A lot of people didn't really like the ending, but I love it. I think it's perfect, and I won't say what it is, but
Whoa.
Yeah. So that's number 41 on my top 50 of all time.
Whoa. Dani, one of your freaky favorites?
So this year, I usually pick the same favorites, and then Steven annoyed me, so I decided to pick 5 different ones because of movies that...
Steven is like, what?
When he was asking me about...
What you're hearing, people, is literally a girl trap, okay? And if I choose to respond to it, I will be girl trapped. A no-win scenario here.
Psychological warfare. Anyway, he irritated me about my freaky favorites and made me realize that I picked the same ones, which is usually fine, but I wanted to pick movies that I thought about that I've watched more than once or that I really enjoyed. And so my first one is Absentia, which is the earliest, or if not one of the earliest...
The first Mike Flanagan
film.
Pre-Oculus?
Pre-Oculus, pre-everything. It suffers from what I call one of the worst movie posters on the cover ever, so people completely overlook it because it looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it is absolutely horrifying, in my opinion. And I guess we talked about it fitting into Beware the Fae, though it's kind of strange because I'm not really sure what exactly the thing is. But I guess you could also do Creature Comforts, because whatever it is, it's something right in that movie, and it's a thing. But I guess Beware the Fae is closest, because it has some elements of fantastical sort of...
Yeah, I think it would also kind of fit in feminist horror, because it is about like a pregnant woman, and it's about her journey. Sort of,
yeah, I guess.
you know?
Yeah, I mean, if that you're just feminist horror because it has women in it and they star in the movie.
Well, I think a lot of Mike Flanagan's works have a little feminine bent.
I mean, I'm saying if you're looking at feminist horror and the simple terms of like it is a female led story. It is the only main characters are two women.
I'm not worried about my baby being ripped out of my stomach, so I can't.
That is
that
true.
seems like
You're
a feminist
not.
horror to me.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, maybe. You know.
But yeah, that's an awesome movie.
It's a great movie. It's a very quiet.
I've never seen it.
It sneaks up on you.
Yeah.
And by the end of the movie, you're like, oh my god. It's really fucking freaky.
Yeah, if we ever made a category about like spooky tunnels, this would be the perfect.
Which we
pick.
could do spooky tunnels because there's a lot of movies
tunnel.
about spooky tunnels.
I keep hearing about this found footage movie, The Tunnel, that I've been wanting to watch for a while that people say is really good. So that would be fun.
Okay.
Maybe next year, spooky
Do I
tunnels.
do a second
Subterranean
one or do we
horror?
move on to you?
we're
Subterranean
doing-
horror?
Go double up. Go for it.
Okay, my second choice is Train to Busan, especially since I recently rewatched it, and it's
I need to do
so excellent.
So incredibly
It's so good. It's just non-stop thrills, non-stop. It's scary. Like the zombie. It's a zombie movie that takes place on such a good. You know, I will say this: Koreans are really big on train horror. Okay, they're big on train.
Well, they have an actual good train
Yeah,
system.
but, like,
Yeah,
but
they
I'm
have
saying,
culture,
but there's
you
a
know?
lot of storytelling that they have where they do like
Yeah.
stories about even society like on trains. Like they're big on like they have train culture there, you know. And so, I think that it's such a great like we don't think about something like that being such an effective storytelling device. And yeah, like it's such a great horror. I think the zombies move in a way that is unique to nothing else. Like no other movie kind of has that sort of zombie choreography. And the story is emotional and you get really into the characters. You care about these people, so you really don't want them to die. And so there's a lot of tension in the story. And that probably would definitely go in. Do we have a zombie? We don't have a zombie.
We don't have a
this
zombie
year.
category this year. It would
We've
definitely
never-
fit
we've
into.
I don't think we've ever done
Yeah,
a zombie.
because we're not.
We're not like.
It would
zombie
fit
people.
on, I guess, Creature Comforts.
It would fit on Fresh Tongues.
Fresh
obviously.
Tongues, definitely.
And isn't it like a father-daughter story? Could you put
It
it on
is.
domestic dysfunction a little bit, maybe?
Yeah, I guess you
Well,
could.
Yeah, because he's
And
kind of
isn't he
doing this
and
because
isn't he a divorcee?
he hasn't been around enough for the kid.
You
know?
could be domestic dysfunction for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one. That's the movie.
And could it also no, because No Place Like Home is more like when you're going to your house.
Well, it's or like house centered.
No, I think
stuff.
I think
yeah.
I think domestic dysfunction and
Fresh Tongues, for
is
sure.
the best. Yeah, like.
Yeah.
My next pick is 1986's Stuart Gordon classic film From Beyond, starring
That's a great pick.
all of Stuart Gordon's favorite actors,
Yes.
Barbara Crampton and Jeffrey Combs.
Of course.
And it is a wild, psychological, strange, gross, goopy, wet, slightly rapey movie.
As per usual, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's a lot of fun, and I highly recommend it. So I'm definitely picking it for Freaky Favorites. It would definitely fit into cosmic horror
for
because
sure.
it is H.P. Lovecraft's From Beyond.
Creature Comforts, maybe.
Yeah, Creature Comforts can catch a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Cosmic horror. It really fits
It's
in
very much.
cosmic
I
horror.
mean, it's literally Lovecraft. So.
anything else? Bloodbaths. It's goo bath.
Yeah, you
Got a
can do
lot
that,
of
yeah.
blood.
It's a little bloody. And
Final Girls? I think she makes it.
If we were doing body
I don't know.
horror, but we're not. But that's like an amazing body horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we used it on body horror in previous years when we
Previously.
had Your Body's a Horrorland.
Yes.
What's your next pick, D-Rock?
My next pick, So this is number 29, I believe, on my top 50 of all time. Is another movie that I have watched literally a dozen times this year. That would be last year's Hellbender, directed by John Adams and Zelda Adams and Toby Poser. I just fucking love the vibes of this movie. The music is so kick-ass.
Mm-hmm.
It's so... And not just, like, kick-ass, like, punky music, but, like, some of the songs playing over some of these, like, montages and, like... The performances are all really good. Like, the characters are so charming, and, like, I love the fucking witchy vibes. This is obviously a great choice for Witchy Wednesday, day 4. And it's just such a, like, cool space and to exist. And that any movie that has some of those, like, crazy, psychedelic... frame a minute fucking scenes like the ones they have in Mandy and a couple places and stuff like that. I eat that shit up, and like I will watch a movie with stuff like that in it. I love that psychedelic, crazy, cosmic weirdness. So this movie just like gets me right in the right spot.
It would also fit into, I think, maybe not. Well, kind of No Place Like Home, because it's about like being like stuck in like this.
Well,
like,
and feminist,
and
two of the directors are feminists, and it's almost any witch story that's from the perspective of the witches is gonna fit on feminist as well. And I love the fact that like, I just think it's so funny that all the drone shots in that movie, like the girl, the Toby Poser, is the one that like does that. Like that's her area. So like the older grown-ups with drones, what the fuck? You do that. You got that technology stuff down, kiddo. So yeah, it works on Drive-In Day too. There was a great episode of The Last Drive-In where they did a live performance of Hellbender.
Yeah, Dani was just saying that's her favorite.
That's actually
episode.
my favorite Joe Bob episode. Learning about their family was really cool.
Yeah, they're very cool.
It felt like they like took over the show.
And we should. I would like to plug. They have a new movie coming out soon. Hopefully, we'll get to distribution. And I fucking can't even remember what the name of it is now. That's great promotion. I'm so good at this.
Good job.
It's like a carnival horror.
It's a carnival horror. Yeah.
It's just such an interesting concept to think about an entire family that makes scary movies together.
I know. Isn't that great?
It's really cool.
I love that.
They're just a very cool idea.
And like that's her step. I don't know exactly.
I don't know.
I don't know nothing about that.
I don't know the minutia lore.
Because Toby Poser. That's right. I lied a second ago.
Wife.
Toby Poser's the wife. Zelda Adams is the kid.
Yeah.
So I think that is her stepmom, which is extra cool. Like I love that. Families that make. Oh, the name of the movie is Where the Devil Roams, and it's about a family on the dying carnival circuit in the early 1900s that goes around murdering people.
Am I next?
And that sounds super awesome.
Sure.
I thought I was next.
Go
Am
for
I
it.
not next? Are you next?
Be next.
Who's not next?
Just.
Who's on first? So, okay, my next choice, something I just rewatched too, and I'm sure people will disagree with me or fight with me about it, but I would fight them very spiritedly back. Sharp Objects is not a movie. It is a miniseries that was produced by HBO, now on Max, the worst app in history.
Max.
But it to me, and I think to many people, it is horrifying. It is a series based on a Gillian Flynn novel, Gillian Flynn of Gone Girl fame, but I think that this deserves just as much adoration, if not a little more, because I think it's really twisted and scary, and it would definitively fit under domestic dysfunction. You've never met a more dysfunctional family than these women in Sharp Objects. It is also No Place Like Home.
Are you sure it's not a comedy of terror?
It's a No Place Like Home movie, because it is about a journalist that goes home to her small town after a murder is reported.
I think you could also fit it into games and toys, because isn't there a dollhouse that is central to the plot?
There is a dollhouse that is
Ooh.
central to the plot as well.
Very nice.
It is, I also think, ironically, without giving anything away, it definitely fits under Love You to Death. Without giving anything away.
Okay.
It is so good. And Southern Gothic. I'm sorry, and Southern Gothic. It is the most Southern Gothic show. It is.
So Dani makes
Yeah.
Wunda Halloween-a-thon history recommending a horror series.
It
For
really
the
is.
first time.
It is horrific.
This
I
series
think.
is-
You opened a door.
I think
Okay.
that the story is horrific. I think that like the interpersonal drama is horrific, whereas it might be light on gore, even though it does have like dead bodies and stuff like that and murder. It is just like you watch that show and you're sort of like in awe of the mess.
The unsettling.
And it is a constant, consistent, unsettling tone to the whole series, and you feel it throughout, and it has a great ending, like a smack you in the face ending
Nice.
that you don't see coming. I mean, if you're paying, maybe if you're really paying attention, you might see it coming, but I didn't see. Yeah, you don't see it coming when you first watch it.
I mean, if Dani didn't see it coming, like if it's possible to see something coming, Dani will see it coming.
I had my suspicions, but like nothing the way. It's a great series. I recently rewatched it. It's so excellent. And I think it's scary. I really think that it's unsettling in it's scary, maybe not in a jump out at you kind of way, but it's
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Also extremely every trigger warning ever. Like
Oh,
like every trigger warning ever. Like so just it's one of those movies like don't watch it. Self-harm, suicide, all kinds of stuff going on in there.
My next freaky favorite pick has a trigger warning for wrestling Hitler. Okay, if you're afraid of wrestling Hitlers, then don't watch Blood Diner, 1987, directed by Jackie Kong, which we did a commentary track for last Wunda Halloween-a-thon.
We all love Blood Diner.
Yes.
Blood Diner's a fun movie
Diner's a
directed
good
by
time.
a woman. It would be perfect for bloodbaths.
So many days that this fits in.
It would be perfect for bloodbaths because it's so bloody.
Because there's so much in it.
Wow, we should do a cannibalism theme because it would really fit in a.
I thought about doing
Cannibal
like
theme.
something like culinary and fitting cannibalism
Ooh,
into
that's
that.
a good idea. There's
Then
a lot
I could
of
put the
different...
menu, which I love, and Dani and Steven both hated.
Boo.
So yeah, Blood Diner is my freaky favorite.
Blood Diner, good stuff. So now all of the rest of my picks are like top 5 all-time movies for me.
What?
But that also means they're a little bit more basic than some of the ones I've already picked. Like, one of the things I'm trying to do with my picks this year specifically is, like, lift up movies that I feel like not a lot of people talk about or have heard of. And, like, anytime I can replace, like, a pillar of horror with, like, something that, like, I don't hear anybody talk about, that's kind of what I'm going for. But, having said that, my next freaky favorite and my number 5 horror movie of all time, Scream by Wes Craven. And what else can I say about Scream at this point? It goes in comedy of terrors, it's a little bit of a comedy, it definitely goes in Final Girls, I mean one of the all-time iconic Final Girls, and like, one thing about this movie, too, is it really gets me in the mood for my number 4 movie of all time, Halloween, because there's that big scene where they, like, use the Halloween music cues for the music cues in Scream, which I love that he does that. It's such an homage, and, like, it works really well, too. But just, like, the mystery is great. All the performances are, like, perfectly unhinged, and like Kevin Williamson, probably my favorite script of his, all of the like pithy dialogue between all the characters and all those like teen icon characters and actors. It's just
what
such
the
a
kids
fun
call
time.
a cultural reset.
And like it's funny how this is kind of seen as the like seminal moment of meta horror when Wes Craven himself did a much more overt meta horror movie 2 years before that with Wes Craven's New Nightmare. But this is obviously, for obvious reasons, like the standard for.
New Nightmare was not as successful as Scream.
No, not even anywhere close. It's great.
In terms
I
of
love
like
New Nightmare,
portraying the meta in a way that is both
yes.
palatable and a story that you can want to follow and like.
Yeah.
It just has that perfect like Hollywood mix,
Mhm.
you know, just
right.
like there's
The kills are great.
young,
Ghost
beautiful
faces.
people.
That is what's so interesting
perfect
about
ending.
Scream is that it is really the most Hollywood movie, but like
It
in
is,
but in a
like,
great
in a
way,
good way.
like the best of what Hollywood is.
The
like,
right,
glossy
exactly.
but interesting and fun and
And
cool
and like turned a dollar store horror
Yes.
Halloween costume into a fucking icon. Like,
Mhm.
and they explicitly state it in the movie, like they sell this at every five and dime in the state. There's no way we can track it. And it's like that's what it was until this movie, and now it's like one of the great icons of horror, and that's like super cool.
So Derek just did two. He did Halloween and Scream.
Well, that's not on my freaky favorites list. I saved that for Halloween.
Oh, okay.
That's a ritual for
Okay.
me. Halloween on Halloween.
Well, what's another pick you got?
So my next pick this is my number 3 movie, and I'm not like this list is always like moving around and I'm adding and subtracting, but at the moment my number 3 horror movie of all time, Midsommar, is
Whoa.
just like. That's another one that hits such a sweet spot for me in terms of like sort of experimental art house and like amazing music, amazing choreography, amazing production design and visuals and like colorization, you name it. Everything about that movie is so well done, and the idea that you reach a certain age and you're done now. That's so terrifying.
Yeah.
And just like all of the like stuff about like these like visceral scenes of like sympathetic trauma therapy that they do that's like fucked up, like not like good therapy. But, like, the whole thing, like, where she's, like, moaning and crying, and they all start, like, moaning and
Sharing
crying.
with
And
her,
yeah, that's such an interesting
I
dynamic
think it's an
to me.
extremely effective cult
Yeah,
horror film.
absolutely.
Like it really, it really actually shows the danger of a cult.
Yes, right.
The danger of
Yeah.
how exactly.
And I
cults
hate
can-
when
can
people, like,
manipulate.
dismiss it as, oh, it's a Wicker Man ripoff. Like, man, that's a stretch.
Yo, we should all be
And a
as
half.
good a Wicker Man ripoff.
Yeah, for real, dude. Like,
Let's have
what?
more Wicker Man ripoffs.
Yeah, right?
Seriously.
As if that's an insult, because
I
Wicker
know.
Man's fucking
Wicker
cool,
Man
but
is
also like it's just
Brilliant.
it's like if the perspective of Wicker Man was completely different.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, yeah. So that's a great pick.
Me and Danny cheated and put Midsommar in Final Girls.
That's
She counts.
that totally fucking fits there. It fits. You could almost like, I mean, it's not fake,
Don't-
but like it's
No, it's not fake. It's not fake. They're just
like
normal people.
in the woods and
Yeah, but-
frolicky and.
Yeah. But they're not fairies. They're just
No,
crazy
they're just
cultists.
they're just crazy people.
No, but you could put it in If You Dare, because they kind of trip out.
Oh, yeah, they have
definitely.
they have
If you
the
dare,
psychedelic.
drug
trip
use is
out.
a huge part
Yes.
of the storytelling.
Or domestic dysfunction. Hello,
For
oh my
sure,
god,
for sure.
Yeah.
big time.
Huge.
Bad way to break up with someone.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so.
My next pick is a movie I discovered last year and really enjoyed. It is 1991's Popcorn. That is a slasher set at a horror movie marathon, so it fits in with the whole Halloween-a-thon vibe.
Yeah, for sure.
And it has a bunch of creative kills with interesting props.
I love the kills in that movie.
It has a lot of fun costumes. It was featured on The Last Drive-In, so you could use it for Drive-In Day. It would also fit in bloodbaths, sort of.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of killing.
Little blood. There's no literal bloodbath.
There's not, yeah,
There
right.
is some blood. Definitely a comedy of terrors.
Yes.
It's a really fun, awesome movie, and I
Domestic dysfunction could work, because it's like a familial kind of thing going on there, too. And
yeah,
like
spoilers, yeah.
relationships going on.
Yeah. Dani, what's your next pick?
My next pick it's actually a pick I decided on this year because it's one of the first movies like ever scared me when I was young. It's The Gate, 1987's The Gate, and it is about kids that dig a hole in their backyard and open a portal to hell.
Whoa.
And there's such a strange tone to it because I think there's some really beautiful claymation work in the story that are practical effects that are really scary. So I always remember that movie being way scarier than I think it actually has a little bit more of a whimsical tone, but it's actually pretty freaking scary. Like especially as a kid, and I kind of almost feel like it could be a movie that for children, like older children, so like it could be in Scare the Kids because I think it has just enough that it's not too gory, it's not too and it has a cast of children in it. But that movie's creepy. It's really creepy. It's a simple concept, but it's effective, and there's some really like weird mind-bendy nonsense.
It would also fit on No Place Like Home.
That's my name.
Yeah, because it makes their house unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
I have one pick left. You have one pick left?
I have one pick left.
I have two.
Okay, so go for it, Direct. DF.
My next pick, this movie holds a special place in my heart. It was probably the movie that ended up getting me really into horror, and the first time I saw it, I didn't even want to watch it. And a good friend of mine, who's sitting across from me here, made me watch it. Yep. Yeah, you don't remember?
I don't know anything.
You don't remember this? Yeah,
I remember nothing.
I don't make anyone watch anything, ever.
No, you get, yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Hey, the way you convinced me was, this is going to be like West Wing for you. I was like,
Says the man who gave me the test.
I was
We first started dating.
I was joking.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
The Monster
I
Squad
was being
test.
facetious.
This for the longest time was my favorite horror movie because it's like one of the most D-Rock movies ever made, probably. And I love it to death, but right now it is my number 2, actually. I changed my list a little bit. It is The Cabin in the Woods,
Well,
directed by Drew Goddard.
Drew Goddard.
Godard, is that how it's...
No, I'm just joking.
No. Like Jean-Luc, yeah.
It's Goddard.
Well, it's spelled the same way. So.
No, it's 2 Ds.
Godard has one D?
Godard is 1 D. Godard has some movies that are not really horror, but kind of horrifying. But Cabin in the Woods is just like, I mean, that's like so in my wheelhouse. The bloodbath at the end is like one of the greatest horror scenes ever, in my opinion. So of course it fits into bloodbath.
Clearly, D-Rock's a meta horror fan.
I love the meta.
Based on
Yeah.
this list.
Yes.
That was one of the things I loved most about that movie when I first saw it. Is like it almost tacitly explains what happened in every other horror movie that came before it. Yeah. Like, it was just this. They were playing out this ritual. Like, it's just so great.
I would love it if they ever did a sequel to Cabin in the Woods. I think the perfect way to do it is just make an anthology film and use all the monsters that you teased.
So they would all have to be prequels, though.
Yeah, it'd be all prequels, but it's an anthology of just prequels.
I would fucking love that. Who wouldn't want a merman movie? Like,
come on.
I'm with.
10 minutes of solid merman.
Be
Let's go.
So sick. So that's my number 2 movie of all time now, and I love it.
You go do your last one.
I'm going to do my final one.
And then
So
we'll do our
that's a
titles.
good segue into, I just recently, and I've been kind of like, part of this is I've sort of rethought how I like rate and rank movies, and to make it much more subjective than I've done in the past, because I feel like that's how people should see, like, there's so many people on Letterboxd, like, I had so much fun watching this movie, this was amazing, 2.5 stars, like, who are you trying to impress? Like, oh, I know this wasn't actually a good movie.
If you're using
but,
Letterboxd as a term, Letterboxd is a hell.
Well, yeah, of course, right? Like, obviously, but like, there are a lot of people who like rate movies that way.
Yeah.
Like, I'm an amateur film critic, and I'm gonna give this 3.5 stars, even though it was like the most fun I've had in a long time. But so I've been trying to be like, and now I have this like criteria of like, number one, pure subjective enjoyment. Number two, I try to like subjectively assess some sort of objective quality to it to like tip the scales. And then the last, like way far behind, but still a factor, is rewatchability. Like, if I start coming back to a movie over and over and just like want to rewatch it over and over, it'll start climbing my list a little bit. And that's kind of what happened with this movie, which has always been one of my favorites. And just recently was thinking about it, and like the number of times I've rewatched this movie, combined with how actually good of a fucking movie it is, combined with how much I fucking love watching this movie. Number one horror movie of all time on my list, The Witch by Robert Eggers. It's just the vibes of that movie, the fucking incredible performances, the incredible production design, the painstaking effort that went into writing this fucking script in this old-timey English, and like, I just, it strikes the perfect balance between like elevated horror with some like really delicious, like campy, like the witches make baby jelly and rub it on their bodies, and it's just like, oh, I fucking love this movie so much. Fits perfectly on Witchy Wednesday, obviously. Probably would fit on Bloodbaths, considering they butter churn a baby into jelly. Goes, to hell with the devil, definitely, because we see Black Phillip at the very end.
You even throw it into domestic dysfunction.
Big time. I mean, that's like the whole movie is that they're just like imagining this shit into existence, basically.
And I feel it is strongly in feminist horror because good for her.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Good for her.
Right.
What's good for you, Dani? What's your last pick?
My last pick is Honeymoon, and I think it came out in 2014, yes.
Directed by Lee Janiak.
Lee Janiak, yep. Who I always mistake for woman.
It
is a woman. Okay,
Yeah.
who's the one that's not a woman?
Fear Street.
Who's not a woman?
Duffers.
Oh, Lee Wannell. Lee Wannell is not
Yes.
a woman, and that has always upset me because I thought Lee Wannell was a woman. But no, Lee
Because he
Janiak
directed Invisible Man. I mean, that's
no, but it's, and
feminist
also
as
just
fuck.
the name Lee. I associate it, especially spell the way it's
Yeah.
spelled. I associate it with a woman, which is okay. So I was right. Lee Janiak is a woman. So anyway, yeah. So
she did Fear Street, right?
Yes, which we another series that we love. I love Fear
Yes.
Street, and we've watched it several times, and I'm definitely planning to rewatch it this Halloween. The Fear Street trilogy on Netflix is excellent. It's really good. Anyway,
Perfect for LGBTQ.
Honeymoon is so freaking scary, and disturbing, in this very quiet, small way. So it's obviously a smaller film, but it is so good. And it's about a couple go on a honeymoon, and things go wrong. And it definitely has, a lot of the things that I'm afraid of. So I would put it in, I would say domestic dysfunction, I guess, because it's...
For sure.
Yeah. I would also say creature comforts.
Love You to Death.
Love You to Death. Yeah, I would put it there. I mean, I guess you could put it in... I don't know if you'd... It technically counts in Final Girls, but, like, not in a good way. But same way that Midsommar is like Final Girls, but at what cost? At what cost? It's just a really good movie, I think, and I've watched it more than once, and the entire setting is so interesting, and I think that it sneaks up on you too. About,
and
like,
it's
what,
one of those
what it
movies
does.
that in 2014 I didn't hear anything about it at all.
I didn't
So-
hear
Yeah.
anything about it until like
It
this
just
year.
didn't exist, so it deserves the
It's
love.
one of
now.
those things that I found like scrolling through,
Right.
like Hulu or wherever I found
Yeah.
it, and I
think
just
it's
clicked
Hulu,
on
yeah.
it, and I was really into it. Like I was I was really surprised how scared I was of it. It's got a bit of body horror in it as well. So yeah.
And my final freaky favorites pick, movie I've talked about at Florida SuperCon, Florida SuperCon, Florida SuperCon,
We're losing our friends here.
when we did our Valhalla of horror movies, From Dusk Till Dawn, directed by Robert Rodriguez, written by Quentin Tarantino. It is perfect for Bloodsuckers Day, or for creature comforts, or for bloodbaths, or for even comedy of terrors, because, you know, Cheech's pussy speech is just the greatest cinematic monologue since, you know, Henry VIII.
Totally. Yeah, you're right.
This is number 31 on my all-time top 50.
Whoa.
So I also love this movie.
It has my favorite horror movie formula of, like, starting off the movie as one totally
genre.
different movie, and then jumping into a different genre, and then seeing how these characters survive this transition.
It kind of starts. I mean, this is a simplification, but like, especially if you go off of like the formula of Grindhouse, it kind of starts out as a Tarantino style, like Death Proof sort of movie,
Totally.
and becomes that Robert Rodriguez Planet Terror kind of movie.
Yeah, it definitely. And at the time, they were definitely going for like this. I think that was the movie that followed up like Pulp Fiction for
Yeah, because 96.
for Quentin. So it was definitely like, oh yeah, we're starting in this Pulp Fiction movie, and it's gonna turn into this psychotic murder vampire toe-sucking kill frenzy.
It's also a fun, like, it balances, kind of like how Trick or Treat balances, like, Sam was cute and horrifying. It balances the sexy and terrifying aspects of vampires,
And the comedy.
like, the monstrous of it.
And even when the killing starts, like, the band playing people's bodies as instruments, oh my god, that's the best. And then they just explode, like...
Yeah. And the coolest part is that band, right? That guy in that band, he's in Roadhouse, we discovered.
Oh, shit.
And he's jamming in Roadhouse.
Yes, he is.
And he was like, apparently his band in the 80s was like, everyone thought they were going to be like the biggest band in the world, because they had like this like one hit. And it just like never like fully materialized, and they just stayed this like underground sort of band, but it was really cool.
The one thing about From Dusk Till Dawn, I wish someone would do a prequel based on that final shot of like the temple. I want to see the history of that.
They did a whole TV show.
They did? Oh, the TV shows?
Well, the TV show touches on it, and then the third movie, From Dusk Till Dawn 3, Hangman's Daughter, is the origin of how Santanico Pandemonium comes into
Oh, shit.
and gets like enslaved as the queen of the...
Yeah, I need to see those.
Are
temple.
these good sequels?
Those sequels.
No.
I want to see them.
From Dusk Till
I bet
Dawn
I would
3
like 'em.
is very entertaining. It's way more entertaining
Then
the
Dusk
second
Till Dawn
one.
2.
from Dusk Till Dawn 2,
which is garbage.
Which is pretty unwatchable.
It's hot garbage.
It's really hard to watch, but it has some cool moments. And it has a really cool shot of like the inside of a vampire's teeth as he's biting someone.
Oh, nice.
That I think is to be applauded.
That's cool.
That's the spirit of Linda Halloween-a-thon.
Definitely.
I have been your host, Steven.
I have been your co-host, D-Rock.
I've been Dani.
She has been Dani. As always. Always irascible. Remember, kids, AEW Dynamite starts promptly at 8 o'clock on TBS. And tweet us at Wundercast.
We're not sponsored, but we'd love to be AEW.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Hey, Wunder. Hey, Wunder.
Wundercast? Give it up for Wundercast, man. What an adorable name.
You're listening to the Wundercast.
What's up, everybody? This is Jason David Frank, Green Ranger. You're listening to Bundacast.
You can find it at Bundacast, and I know they love Effie.
Subscribe to the Vundacast.